Welcome to my top 10 roller coasters I've ever ridden. I've had a few people ask me this over my time on YouTube, and I'm really excited to share it with you guys today. Also, if you do enjoy, please subscribe. It's free and you won't regret it. So, without further ado, let's get into this. As of the recording of this video, I've ridden 48 different roller coasters. Not a huge amount, but each new coaster I ride is a new experience and a new memory. So let's kick things off with number 10, which is Blue Fire at Europa Park. This ride, in my opinion, gets way too much hate. For a prototype, Blue Fire is perfectly fine, and I really like the rock work around the ride, offering some great near misses, and the launch is the best I've experienced on a mat coaster. Which isn't saying much as I've only ridden Icon, but the launch on Blue Fire is about 10 times better than both of Icon's put together. My favourite part of the ride is the final inversion. Wow, it's incredible. Lots of whip and lots of fun. A perfect ending to a perfectly fine ride. Yes, the coaster does have its downsides and its dead moments. For example, that mid-course brake run is not the greatest. However, in terms of your overall experience, Blue Fire is incredible, and I highly advise you ride it at Europa Park. Heading over to Thorpe Park now for my number 9, which is Nemesis Inferno. Although I've only actually had one ride on this coaster, one ride was enough for it to gain my respect. This ride is definitely interesting to say the least. It has a pre-lift section, which, because I was in the front row on my only go, I got a little bit of a push in this volcano. There's loads of mist, mini fire effects. It's so cool in there. I love it. And the vegetation around the ride is really, really immersive, really cool, really jungle themed. It's so good. And the inversions, although they are quite generic, they are perfectly fine. The whole ride's smooth, and it does pull some force. Like the final two helixes, I just wasn't expecting any force on them, but no, I got a decent amount. It was great. It was a very good surprise. The only downside to Nemesis Inferno is partly due to the name, and it's just not as good as some other roller coasters that I rate higher on my list.
The Wicker Man is currently experiencing a delay.
You don't know how many times I've heard that. Wicker Man takes the number 8 spot. With its immersive experience from the queue line all the way up to the station, this ride is the complete package. Although it may be more on the tamer side, it doesn't really compare in my opinion to Smiler and Nemesis, also at the same park. However, it's a roller coaster that Alton Towers needed, bridging that gap between 13 and more of the bigger rides. Alton Towers desperately needed a wooden roller coaster, and Wicker Man was the perfect fit. The theming is incredible. I absolutely love Big Bob, the Wicker Man structure, and the views you get of the entire ride from the queue line is just incredible. Probably one of the best queue lines I've ever experienced. So many views, and this is actually one of the rides that I don't mind it aging, due to the fact that as this thing gets older, vegetation's going to grow, and so it's going to really feel like you're flying through these woods. Wow, it's going to be incredible. Wicker Man gives an absolutely phenomenal night ride, and despite many people claiming that it doesn't have airtime, it really does, especially more towards the back of the train. You do get some pull, but Wicker Man's not really an airtime filled ride. It's more on these twists and turns, and it's more your overall experience for me on Wicker Man. But phenomenal ride, and I can't wait to get back on it, hopefully later on this year. Back over to Thorpe Park now for the Swam, the UK's only wing rider, and boy is this a good ride. Although the restraints are very restrictive, and I felt that more than my cousin, I don't know why, maybe it's just my size. However, looking past the restraints, the ride is very, very good. There's lots of theming. It's like an apocalyptic theme, really cool. There's nice little touches here and there, like this fire truck that's been turned upside down, and when all the effects are working on the Swam, it's an experience that I just can't explain. There's nothing like, for me, riding on the sides of the track. It's so weird, but it's so cool. My favourite part of the ride has got to be that wing over drop. You get a lot of hang time in the front row and a lot of pull on the back row. Really, really good ride. However, I am biased because I've only ridden this roller coaster on the left side, because I've only ridden this twice during my one trip to Thorpe Park. So next time I do ride it, I need to try the right side. But yeah, first drop, incredible. There's lots of near miss elements. I love the overall theme. It's just so cool. And I really wish we could see more of that from Thorpe Park in the coming years. At the exact same park as the Swam, we have Stealth, an Intamin hydraulic launch coaster. This ride is ridiculous. It may be short, but oh boy does it pack one hell of a punch. That launch is like nothing I've ever experienced on a launch roller coaster before. You just look up at this huge top hat that's over 200 feet tall, and then you launch, and it's a crazy acceleration. It's like 0 to 80 in 1.8 seconds. Once you actually launch, the wind's blowing in your face, you can feel the G-force as you go up into the top hat, get a small moment of airtime over the top, then you come down. Forceful experience at the bottom of the drop, then airtime. All on this one hill, crazy, and into the brakes. Although Stealth may be short, and it's a bit controversial for me to put Stealth above the Swam, but for me, Stealth is a one-trick pony that will always catch me off guard. Into my top 5 now, and in number 5 I have Wodan at Europa Park. Where do I begin? Wodan is my favourite wooden roller coaster by a long shot. This thing is incredible. There's so much flow to air time, so many near miss elements, and I swear if this ride didn't have a brake run, it could go on forever. The pacing is phenomenal. I love it. And that's not beginning to talk about the theme. The theme on Wodan is very mythical and very, very good. The queue line is very impressive. I swear I could wait there for 2 hours, 3 hours plus, and still be content with riding this roller coaster after that time. There's so much to look at. There's even a small pre-show in there, but the highlight for me in the queue line has got to be this wooden shack that shakes every now and then. It's pretty scary, and it actually looked like it was part of the wooden structure above, because remember, the queue line's actually based underneath the station and the maintenance shed, so it's really cool, and that means it's air conditioned whether you're going in the summer or the winter. Really, really nice. And my favourite part on Wodan has got to be that first drop. The airtime is crazy, and the near miss elements because of the wood structure around you, great. There's also quite a lot of lateral forces at the bottom, so you're being thrown up against the side of the trade. Excellent ride overall, and one that I cannot wait to get back to. The Smiler takes my number 4 spot, and if there's an award that goes for a ride with the creepiest theme, I think Smiler would take it hands down. This ride is demented, honestly. The way it twists in and out of itself through 14 different inversions, and not to mention the 2 fabulous airtime hills. There's one halfway through the first half, the other one's halfway through the second half, and you get airtime. Probably the best moment of airtime in the park, not including Oblivion, which is right next door. But yeah, I love the Smiler. It's just so forceful, and I think at the time of recording this video, this is the coaster that I've ridden the most. That's not exact because I don't actually know, I don't count up how many times I ride each roller coaster. But yeah, phenomenal ride, and I just can't get enough of it. Although it is rough in the final few inversions, it kind of adds to the experience. Like, you're out of control, you're being sent through this process of getting corrected, which is blimmin' creepy all by itself. And it's like, wow, it's just, oh, it's so creepy. I think to improve upon the Smiler, could be a little bit smoother in those final few inversions, but I'm not too bothered about that. And also the queue line could be spruced up a little bit. It does get very irritating listening to that very good soundtrack, but hearing ha 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 for sometimes 2 hours is not very enjoyable. And the strobe lighting in that indoor section, no, just please get rid of it. Number 3 is the roller coaster that got me into becoming an enthusiast, and that is Nemesis, also at Alton Towers. This ride uses the terrain very well. There's lots of trenches, and when the water was running red, it really felt like you would lose your feet on every single one of them. The inversions are very well done, they're very whippy, and there is a small dead moment in the ride when there's like this, which would now be considered like a small out-of-bank wave turn thing, but I think that's perfectly fine. You need that breather because Nemesis is a very intense experience. I remember the first time I rode this roller coaster, climbing up that lift hill and hearing the classic B&M clink. I was so hyped, and going down that first drop I was like, how is this thing even allowed to be running? It's crazy. The ride was so forceful. I love it to pieces. However, there is one roller coaster that I do like better in the UK, and that is Icon at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Icon does a lot of things very well. For one, it has hang time on that barrel roll, air time in the form of small pops, whippy elements such as when you're twisting here and then, there's lots of them actually. You have a decent launch. It's not great. As already stated, it is nowhere near as good as Blue Fire's and nowhere near as good as Stealth's, but it's there, it's fine, it does what it needs to do, it gets the train up to speed. The ride also has a good amount of forces, and for me, Icon is just overall goodness. If you were to ask me what my favourite section on Icon would be, it would probably be the second half, just because it's more extreme. I kind of feel like the first half is a bit more tame, like after the top hat, there's just this incline loop, a few twists and turns, and then once you hit into the barrel roll and get some excellent hang time, 2 pops of air time, and then boom, you're into the second launch. It really kicks up the intensity after that part, in my opinion. Icon is just an overall great roller coaster, although it may not have the theme as others on this list. It doesn't need it because Blackpool is more on the amusement park side, but Icon for me, best ride in the UK by quite a long shot, and I can't wait to get back to ride this roller coaster, even if I did have a few not great rides in February earlier on this year. However good Icon may be, Silver Star takes my number 1 spot. Now hear me out, I know it's a slightly controversial opinion putting Silver Star above Wodan, Nemesis below Icon, however, this is my opinion. Now on to Silver Star. Silver Star has given me the most amount of airtime on a single roller coaster that I've experienced. I remember going down that first drop and was like, whoa, this is good. And it just kept getting better and better from there. Each camelback sustained about 4 or 5 seconds of airtime, then you're down, positive G-forces, up again, positive G-forces. It's really, really good. However, the highlight of the ride for me, and what really makes Silver Star my number 1 roller coaster, is the drop off the mid-course. Now this is normally not discussed on practically any other roller coaster out there. No one says, oh, I love the drop off the mid-course, because the mid-course always slows the train down. That's not the case on Silver Star. You get thrown out of your seat. This is pure ejector. This is ejector airtime at its highest. You are whipped over that small drop. It is so good though, and combined with the really unrestricted lap bar, you just have such an open experience, and you're really feeling like you're racing and you're getting this incredible airtime experience that with the wind in your face, and it's just non-stop airtime. I love it. Another highlight of the ride for me is also the small twisty section into the brakes. I'd kind of like to see B&M do more of that, even though this ride was built ages ago, well, before I was born. But yeah, Silver Star, definitely my number 1 roller coaster. If you did enjoy my top 10 roller coasters, please consider subscribing and sharing my content, guys. I really, really want to give you guys the best quality content I can give you, especially in these somewhat dark times. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and as always, thanks for watching.